Hey everybody, welcome to this month's question of the month. If you've got a question you'd like me to answer, go to yoganatomy.com/my question and I'll do my best to answer it on video for you. This month's question comes from Kat. Hi David, thanks for taking the time to read my question. So recently I have been experiencing pain in Urdhva Dhanurasana. As far as I can tell, it seems to be where the lumbar spine meets the thoracic spine. So I'm assuming it's a case of overuse in the lumbar and not enough opening through the thoracic. The problem is I can't tell whilst I'm in the pose. It's only once I'm out that I notice the compression sensation in my lower back. I'm finding it hard to be aware of the sensations of lengthening my low back when I'm in the pose. Is there any advice you may have for opening the thoracic more effectively whilst I'm in the pose? So there's a few things kind of mixed in here. Generally speaking, what I'm going to say to you is you're looking for the pressure to move out of the lower back and into the mid to upper back. From a developmental point of view of Urdhva Dhanurasana, and then it's not anywhere. Most people overdo their low back at first, and that is a result of tight hip flexors. That's why most people have compression in their lower back. I've done this a million times in lots of anatomy of backbending workshops. I get people to open their hip flexors and do their backbend, and the majority of the people find that there's no more pressure in their low back after doing those preparation poses. So something like backbend, open the tissues that need to be open right before you do it. So I do those preps right before backbending. And that is this little sequence that I have. It's essentially a Virasana, not exactly, but it's active where you lift the hips up from Virasana to stretch the front of the quadriceps, because rectus femoris, in my mind and theory, is the single most important muscle that holds the pelvis in a direction that creates a lot of that compression in the low back. So, yes, it can be overuse as well. You have to keep in mind that when you get to the top of the lumbar, L1, where it meets T12, the last thoracic vertebrae, that's a place where the bottom of that L1 is a back bending joint creation. That the direction of the way the joints come together lends itself to back bending and forward bending. The top of L1, as it meets T12, is sitting at a different angle that does not lend itself to back bending. It moves still, doesn't mean it's like, oh, it's a critical point. So this is a common place where you end up with pressure being felt, because as the force and pressure builds up in the low back, it naturally gets up against that last L1 T12 connection to put pressure on it. So that might be why you're feeling it there. So my sense is your intuition is generally right here. You know, you're overdoing the lumbar, or there's too much pressure in the lumbar, and so you feel that pressure afterwards because, you know, let's say I'm going a little far and I'm making up a story, you know, let's say you're inflaming that joint area where T12 meets L1, which would kind of make sense. So in order to get the pressure out of there and move it further up into the thoracic spine, open the hip flexors first. Open the hip flexors first. That's going to allow the hips to go higher, and it's going to move the force further up into the thoracic spine. All right. I hope that helps. Anybody else? You got a question you want me to answer? Go to yoganatomy.com/my question.